Welcome back to another edition of The Really Experts. I'm Geoff.
And I'm Agent Ron.
Yep, I am. Well, now you beat me to it. Now Agent Geoff doesn't sound as cool because you did it first, you dick. This is a special, as you could tell, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. review and look back on the season that was, and what an awesome season it was, Ron.
Oh my god.
I love me some Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I've said this on multiple podcasts. This last season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and, you know, kind of throw in season 2 in there, just like S.H.I.E.L.D. in general, since the Winter Soldier happened, like, so underrated.
And it keeps getting better every episode.
It really makes me sad that so many people quit when they did.
I know.
It kind of sucks. It did become something really special, I think.
It did.
It's
it
really
should have been from the beginning, but, yeah, no, it became something really incredible. And, you know, I urge you, if you're listening to this for some reason and you're not watching S.H.I.E.L.D., to start that show back up.
Yeah, what you have to do, just skip to like episode 15, whichever one coincided with the Winter Soldier shit.
Yeah,
that's all you need. Like, I mean, maybe watch the pilot so you have like a general idea of these.
Watch the Winter Soldier. That's your pilot.
There you go. Yeah, so just watch Winter Soldier. It's fucking good. Yeah, so we're gonna be pretty much doing. We're not gonna do a spoiler-free review. We're gonna just straight up do spoilers because I imagine if you're clicking on a fucking Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. finale recap that you've actually been caught up on the show.
You've actually watched
but
it.
Yeah, we will be doing spoilers. This is your warning. Do you want to do any red alerts?
Yep. Spoilers.
Everything,
all the spoilers.
Everything that's ever happened in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. All right, Ron. The finale happened. It was Absolution and Ascension. I mean, it was a 2-part finale.
Which fucking metal names, dude.
Really, yeah. Best X-Men movie I've ever seen.
Oh my god.
Was this 2-part finale. It was fucking good.
This is the best, since it's a 2-hour finale, basically, the best movie that's not canon to the MCU that they've done.
Yeah, no kidding.
Like, seriously.
I don't even know where to begin. It was just, first of all, it was nerve-wracking as shit.
Oh, all the emotions.
Like when it got tense, that got fucking tense. Like,
yeah, it did.
In the first portion of it, that scene where Fitz is in the hangar and they have that reveal where they've shipped in the Terrigen Mist stuff.
Yes, and, you know, one of the mysteries this whole time is what the hell is Absolution, and he sees the shipping label and puts it together when it's already too late.
That scene when those Silent Hill fuckers are dragging people into the mist was pretty terrifying for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, like, just add some tentacles and they're basically evil red-eyed Ood.
Pretty much.
But, yeah, dude... Yeah, they're dragging them into... Yeah, it was very Silent Hill. The mist and everything.
Pyramid Head Season 4, calling it.
And, you know, I know he's safe, but I'm still fretting for Fitz's life.
Although, they've had the ongoing theme of who's the person that's going to die.
Yeah.
Did it a billion fucking times better than Arrow.
Oh, yeah. And... do we want to go ahead and talk about that now, or do we want to lead into that later?
We'll lead into that, but what I was going to say is that you were saying, you know, he's safe, but they established early on that
someone's not.
Someone's not, because they kept moving around the cross, the crucifix, that that was always seen with the explosion.
And that's what I was going to say was so genius.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it's first given to Mac, and then you're like, oh! And then next thing you know, he's passing it off, and then it's getting passed off again and again and again. And what a fucking genius way to keep the mystery rolling.
Yeah, it was like... in a way, it shouldn't have worked. It should have been kind of on the nose, but it was kind of cool the way they pulled it off. Yeah. I actually liked it. Now... part of it was like, as soon as it was given to Fitz, like 30 minutes in the episode of part 1, I was like, well, Fitz is safe because they're not going to do that now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was
but
a cool...
at the same time, it did the stereotypical thing all season of building him up with Gemma, you know, him with Simmons. And
as soon as they had a conversation where they were talking about a vacation, I knew they were both safe because that was
because usually that's your giveaway.
No, that's why exactly why I thought it was safe, because
too obvious.
It was too on the nose, and it was also in part 1. You know, it wasn't towards the end.
And that's exactly how I knew Mac was safe. But so I realized I'm going to start passing it off. Yeah, because you know the real thing about that final scene was to show you the cross, apparently, but. I was kind of worried for Mac at the end of that because I love Mac.
Yeah, we should probably say we were freeballing this. There are no notes. This is going to be all over the place. Yes. We'll do our best. But, man, let's just talk about the acting.
Okay.
Chloe Bennett. was fucking amazing in that two-parter.
Oh my god.
She is having to portray, she has been manipulated by Hive. She is basically in the thinking of, she's still going through withdrawals because it literally fucked up her system.
Not to mention the guilt.
She has the guilt of, being present for your actions as far as hurting people.
Yeah, and that scene she has with Mac when he steps into her cell.
Yeah, they're both so good. Like, when she starts hitting him to get him away from her, when he's trying to hug her to console her, like, it was so well done.
And when he's giving her that speech, that he has that awesome line, I wish I'd looked up the quote, but his delivery on those lines, too, to her.
Yeah. What do you know generally what line you were... I might remember it because I just watched it a few hours ago.
I really don't. Because, we're so good at our jobs.
I didn't even have it up on IMDb yet.
I had it up. I just didn't do anything with it. But, yeah. Mac
really? We're not going to do a That's What She Said joke for that?
Nope.
You do it for every other setup.
I know. I'm not on my A game. We just did a 70-minute newscast.
No, a 70-minute rant cast. What the fuck that was.
I've lost my voice. I've lost my energy, but and my dignity a little bit. But no, Chloe Bennett. She in season 1. I could not even tell you that's the same actress.
In her defense, that was literally her first acting job. They kind of picked her up off the street,
and it kind of felt that way.
Yeah,
but
then again, it's not her fault. They picked the girl off the street. You know what I mean?
So. But yeah, dude. Now, her and Brett Dalton, I believe, is his name.
Ward / Scary Hive.
Yes, / the devil himself.
Yeah.
We have not paid enough attention to those two actors.
So, I liked Ward once they did the reveal that he was a villain.
But when he was playing Ward, he was always so one note to me. And now I'm questioning if that was partially the writing.
I think it was a lot of the writing because it's like. What is he supposed to do?
Because, at the time, I was just like, come on, dude, step it up a little bit. But, fuck, dude, when they made him Hive, he was one scary motherfucker.
Oh, yeah. First of all, let's just talk about how amazing the concept of Hive was. He was an awesome idea for the show. Just a brilliant way to... usually... When TV shows do the reuse an actor thing, it bothers me because it's kind of lazy. Yeah. But they did it. He is such a completely different person. He's such a cool concept and character. And then I completely loved it.
Then there's the times that he would call to the forefront, the personalities or the memories of the other people that are inside of him.
Yeah, that scene
like when he was Power Boost's brother.
Yeah, the scene, and it was a brilliant callback in the finale when they do the memory machine thing to fuck him up. Was a brilliant callback,
dude. When he was talking to Powers Booth and he switches into his brother, his facial changes and the way he throws his voice changed so much that they didn't have to fucking tell you it was a different person.
Yeah, it was cool too. Is you could tell when he snapped into Ward mode immediately. It was that actor is genuinely really good, and he I'm glad they had a way to
showcase
it with the Hive idea, and I absolutely love the definitely their best villain they've done easily.
And, you and I typically don't like when a show tries to over-explain something, but how did you feel about their explanation of how Hive works? I thought it was actually pretty cool.
You talking about where he infects your brain?
That and the fact that he's basically a bunch of microorganisms made up together as one entity, and then he can use that to go into your brain, and instead of... It's funny the way his mind control works because it's kind of genius because it is mind control but not in the traditional sense. He was activating all the pleasure centers of your brain in just the right way where he was a drug to you. And Chloe Bennett had the line of, which by the way, we've been saying Chloe Bennett a lot. If you don't know who that actress is by now, it's Daisy Johnson / Sky. She had that line where... Mac was talking about how he's had his mind control before, and she said, no, this is different because he makes you love him for the things that, he makes you do and stuff. So I thought that was actually a really interesting concept, that he was like a narcotic to them.
Yeah, it was a great concept. I thought the character was incredibly menacing. all the special effects that people did for like the leftover like goopy skeletons after he eviscerated people. It looked for an ABC show. Yeah, it was fucking dark for an ABC show.
I was gonna say it was some dark shit, man.
It was really cool. Like it was just a great job. And then like you even had pathos with each of the individual characters, like that scene where he is able to talk to Gemma when she shoots him in the previous episodes.
Yes,
was cool. Like he has a way,
and he
to
just has like goop oozing out of him from the bullet hole.
Like he had a way to tie in. Like there's the dynamic of fucking Coulson going after Ward. Like it's so many cool character and storylines.
And another thing that I like that they did with him was they did something that actually kind of borrowed a little bit from Doctor Who. With he is the origin story of every story you've ever heard about the devil or anything like that in any culture. They all originate from that character, and that's exactly how he acted. You know, when he was walking in the room or whatever, everything he did was a deception. And then you have the tie-in that in the Bible, sin is pleasurable, and he's activating the pleasure centers of your brain to serve him. It was pretty genius.
It was. It really was. That I can't believe that. You know, and what's cool too, and kind of crazy, is that these people from the writing staff who are churning out this like awesome stuff the last couple of years are a lot of the same writers who were with the show at the beginning. It's like those writers went from like writing that to writing this, and you're just like, well, I don't even understand what happened. It's like it's crazy.
Yeah, I don't know. It was like the first half of season 1 was all one giant pilot or something. I don't know.
It's such an odd but fascinating show.
It really is.
I really like the dynamic of adding in the Inhumans, as far as they would like to use X-Men, but they can't because of the rights.
Right.
I actually thought the Inhumans were really well done. I was a little skeptical of it at first because at the beginning, it did come across to me for maybe just a little bit of time, maybe like a couple of episodes of like, man, we'd really love to have those X-Men guys, you know what I'm saying? But they ended up doing a great job. Like what sold me on the whole thing was the Lash storyline.
Yeah.
That fucking Lash.
Which is funny because when they first introduced him, when I talked to you about it, you didn't like Lash at all. When the hospital episode?
I did. Part of it was like, as a concept, he's cool. How he was just kind of like eating the fucking Inhumans, kind of.
Yeah.
But his after that show was such an espionage thriller in the vein of the Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
When it started looking like Del Toro came, I mean, I love your damn Del Toro, but it looked like something like out of Hellboy more so than Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of not that it was necessarily bad. It's a little bit of culture shock, but then getting to look back at it as a whole. With all the Inhuman stuff, it was awesome. It's just kind of like hindsight 2020 type of deal. But
I remember ever since the reveal that Lash was May's ex-husband, all of a sudden you were on board with the Inhumans.
I was genuinely surprised by that. They caught me off guard with that.
They caught me on. That episode caught me off guard, but the moment itself didn't because of the lead up to it. But it was still, when it happened, it was still like, oh my god!
And then that payoff with Lash.
Oh my god!
When was it like last week's, right?
It was last week's. That moment when he goes to try to take over Lash, and he just fucking like destroys every organism he sends his way with that like hand move that he's got, that energy ball he can make. That was your oh shit moment, because even the look on Hive's face when that happened was like, he can do that? Yeah.
What that show is able to surprise me and catch me off guard with twists more often than they should be able to with an ABC Marvel show.
And,
it's really well done.
Here's the thing that's crazy. As each episode progresses, it's like the writing technique evolves a little bit more. Because like if you look back at season 2 and stuff, I don't remember a whole lot of specifics on this. So I can't really give much example, but I remember that we would have some plot lines come in and then fade away and not really be utilized much by the end. But I can't think of a goddamn thing that happened this season that did not circle back around for the finale.
They were great at callbacks, even as far as going back, not even just within the season, but like the memory machine from the previous seasons.
Yes.
The fact that Coulson and Skye had Kree blood was a callback that was really, really well done that I'd forgotten about. That ended up being an important.
I remembered Coulson because Tahiti is so ingrained in my brain. It's such a magical place, and I forgot about Sky having it. Though he used it to save Sky's life.
The idea that Lash made Daisy immune was cool. That was another cool callback. I mean, it was just a week ago, but it was a cool continuation.
Let's talk about that for a moment, because how awesome is that she tried to go back to him, just like someone trying to get off of narcotics.
You watched her relapse, and then it was more amazing acting by her.
And her reaction when she couldn't.
That fight was incredible.
Now, it had a few parts that I was just like, come on, guys. Now you're trying to show off, and it's diminishing the fight. Like, unnecessarily, like, running up walls to blast him and stuff. But overall, that fight was incredible.
For an ABC Marvel show,
it should not have been as cool as it was.
It shouldn't have been a fourth as cool as it was. Like, dude, and then I've said this before, Daisy's ability to break people's bones freaks me out, because when she has him pinned to the wall and she is just pulverizing him against the wall,
and then he starts putting himself back together,
like, creepily,
and there's that sickening sound, and he's like Exorcist style putting himself back together.
The implementation of her powers in hand-to-hand combat, which, by the way, cool. I like how she's almost like an airbender sometimes.
Yes, actually,
like blocking attacks and shit. Mm-hmm. Like that right there is some of the fighting shit that should have been in the Airbender movie.
Yes. You know more about comic stuff than I do, but even people that know comics don't really know the Inhumans because it's such an obscure concept. But when they first introduced her name is actually Daisy Johnson, something that I have seen or watched or read somewhere, I'd seen or heard that name. So I Googled it, and that's when I first discovered she's Quake. She didn't even have her powers yet, but I was like, oh, fuck, I know what they're doing with her now. And I did research on Quake, and in the comics, her powers are so pinpoint precise, she can create an earthquake in the middle of your brain and cause aneurysms and shit.
That's crazy.
That's how precise she is. So you see that in the show when she uses it for fall control, or when she's using it to airbend, deflect things away from her in the middle of a fight and stuff. It's really cool the way that they're using her powers. It's really creative.
Brett Dalton's line delivery when he was getting stabbed.
Oh my god,
was chilling. She knows she can't hurt him that way, but she's so fucked up in the head that she stabs him like 6 or 7 times. And his reaction when he's just like,
it's like it's not even happening.
When his reaction, like he was like, every time she would go in to stab him, he was following, like the stab motions while he's continuing to talk.
But he's talking like nothing is
happening. It was so fucking like unnerving. That he is one of the very best MCU villains.
He really is.
He is better than 95% of their movie villains.
Yeah, and more developed because he's been developed for 3 seasons because there's a little bit of Ward in him.
Yeah, and he has some pathos because there's a little bit of Will, like with the like that. Oh, that Gemma episode.
Oh man,
with Will and Gemma, and the first kind of reveal, like what the fuck is that thing? Like it was so good. It was like a Twilight Zone episode.
It really was,
and it was so fucking cool. Like we had a Twilight Zone episode, we had a Doctor Who episode,
an Exorcist episode.
Like
the only thing that was missing was the head spinning around vomiting.
And this one had horror elements. Like they were locking themselves in. It was inside their own base.
And you know that, you have the cross thing floating around, but you still know that generally a lot of these characters are safe. But you're still genuinely worried about shit that's happening because there's worse things than death. Even though they're generally safe, the shit he's capable of doing, and he's just unstoppable.
What's also really, really good about the show is what made them teasing a death really work is that you actually genuinely kind of care about all the characters. Really, no one on the show is unlikable.
Yeah.
You like certain characters more than others, but
you don't really dislike them.
They don't have a Laurel.
Yeah.
But funny enough, which is, the parallels between the teasing of the death.
Yeah.
Is so ironic, and then it was almost like the equivalent of the Civil War BVS thing.
It really is.
Like, Marvel just completely dominated them doing the exact same thing.
I feel like they're like teasing each other back and forth now because they did the teasing of the death that was on Arrow, and then Legends had a line that was straight out of Ultron. You know, I just feel like they're intentionally poking and prodding each other now.
I really like Yo-Yo. I think she's an interesting character.
Her powers are interesting.
That scene, the way it was shot when Mac gets shot at, and he's just like, "What the fuck's going on?" Because you don't see her do it, and
even though you kind of had the same reaction he does, even though she's there, every shot you're just like, "Oh God, oh God, oh God," and he's just kind of like, "Oh God, what's happening?" And then to see her get hit. And then there was that awesome line.
I was trying to catch the bullets, wasn't fast enough.
Yeah, he's like, you shouldn't take a bullet for me. She's like, I was trying to catch them, I wasn't fast enough. But I really like. I always appreciate, like you do, when you have someone that has really cool powers that has some sort of limitation to them. For me, my idea of a limitation for Daisy is how easily she can break people's bones and stuff like that. She has to hold back pretty hard, sometimes maybe too hard, and endangers herself and others still.
And it actually hurt herself, too. Before she got the special gloves, it actually fucked up her arms.
And she did a lot of that fighting, you notice, without those. But I like the limitation on Yo-Yo's power, whereas like Flash is pretty much unlimited.
He's
in
like
what
a god, almost.
Yeah. Yo-Yo, is as fast or as far as she can go in a single heartbeat.
Something like that. They explained it a few episodes ago, I believe.
Yeah, that's
great fucking name too, Yo-Yo. Such a great name.
Because she always basically ends back up where she started. So it's actually pretty. She's got super speed, but in a limited span.
With a creative twist to it. It's like, and I don't think she's actually a comic character. I think they might have actually made her up for the show. Also hard to do. It's hard to come up with fucking creative superpowers after we've had 80 years of comic books. It's almost impossible.
I guess you could say Lash's limitation is he loses his humanity when he transforms.
Lash is like
Dr. Jekyll and
Mr. Hyde done 10 times more interestingly.
Yeah, because he can blow a fucking hole in your chest.
Because he looks like he beat the shit out of Hellboy before he popped into the scene.
Yeah.
I love. I think what they've turned Mac into. Mac's one of my absolute favorite characters now.
I've always really liked him, but yeah, he's definitely in my favorites list now. And how awesome was it when he had an actual shotgun axe in the finale?
God,
I laughed so hard.
It was one of those things where it shouldn't have worked,
but it
completely did.
Only because he duct taped an axe to a shotgun previously. Or a cleaver. It was a cleaver. He had duct taped a shotgun. Like shotgun axe.
The thing looked serious too. It makes no goddamn sense, but it looks serious. Let's talk about. So we had the. I'm trying to go like kind of episode by episode. Have we missed anything in episode 1 that we want to touch on before really diving in towards the end?
I don't believe so.
I'm trying to I kind of look at it as one big movie where it's hard to differentiate. Obviously, the beginning with Fitz and what's the general guy's name?
Talbot.
When he had to mocap himself as the other general, that was hilarious. He's like, shit. He's like, oh god, he's 2 inches taller than me, and then he squats down, and then Fitz goes and gets a box. It was just fucking funny.
And then their demeanor when they were recording, it was so fucking awkward when they were talking to the dude.
Yeah, I really like the addition of. Who we'll talk more about later, obviously, but John Hannah, the dude from The Mummy, he's a really cool character that I'm really interested to see what they do with him now.
I'm really interested in him, and now that he's basically on board with S.H.I.E.L.D.
His dynamics as far as like him
I'm a victim here.
Like they never miss an opportunity to call him out for his shit. He was always running around with them anyway, you know.
I can tell by your mustache that you're a very important, prominent person. I can tell by your beady little eyes that you're a worm.
It was so fucking good.
Almost as scary as Hive, that one.
So here's the interesting thing: who did you think was going to die? Let's say before the episode. Before the finale ever happened, who did you think was going to die? Because they've been teasing this for a while.
They had been. I had a sneaking suspicion that the cross may have ended up back in Mac's hands. Because, he's not... I don't want to say he's not as important to the team. I guess he's not as integral to the show as, say, Fitz or Simmons or Coulson or May. I don't know. I was really kind of going back and forth, but I had this gut-wrenching feeling that we may end up losing Mac.
My whole thing was the way they were teasing it, and with them even doing hashtags like Fallen Agent, I think was one of their hashtags going around. I always thought it was going to be one of the originals. May would have been the one I was always guessing. Because also, I actually thought it made sense to kill her off in that finale, because they had just kind of wrapped her character arc for me with the Lash thing.
Pretty much.
And I thought it would have been like a cool time for that character to go. And that was who I thought it was going to be. And we'll talk about who actually, in a few minutes, who actually did. I actually wish it would have been May. I think it would have been a better... I think we had a good stopping point for her character, whereas who actually died, I feel like we lost out on some stuff.
I don't know. I don't completely agree with that. I get it would have been cool, but I like pretty much how they wrapped it up.
I'm trying to. Obviously, there's obviously Coulson moments we need to talk about. The Obi-Wan Kenobi thing, fucking amazing. I really, really liked the special effect on Hive himself. He looked creepy. It didn't look cheap, which it very easily could have because they're limited on their budget.
Yes,
he looked very.
And I was actually a little bit worried about it because they teased it with Powers Booth, the episode where he kills his daughter.
Yeah.
They kind of tease it. You see it from behind and in the shadows. I was like, oh god, it's Davy Jones, isn't it? But, it was actually pretty scary looking. Especially the red eyes was a nice touch.
I'm trying to remember. I'm sure we're gonna end up thinking back. I can't believe we didn't talk about this and this. But I liked this. The second part was actually written by Jed Whedon, Whedon's brother, who's with Melissa Tancharoen, I think is her name. They're the two main showrunners,
and he's the one that's responsible for the flying car, right?
Maybe.
I'm pretty sure he was.
Probably him and the showrunner girl. The other showrunner girl. The scene where May is giving the spiel about, he didn't make you, I made you, and then she gets knocked unconscious was really well timed because I was like, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah.
It was so funny how he's brothers with Joss Whedon. And he does implement a lot of the same techniques that his brother does.
Yeah, well, to be fair, he could be calling him up on the phone, like, what should I do here?
Could you rewrite the scene for me, bro?
But, that, I don't know why. I should have seen it coming, but that caught me off guard.
It completely did me, too.
It was a really cool way they did it because the character that they used you don't have to see him sneaking up behind her or anything. And it makes sense because a lot of times what bugs me in movies or TV shows is that same thing will happen, and the person directly in front of them that should have seen it coming doesn't say a goddamn thing about it, and they're like, "Oh, you mean to fucking tell me you didn't see that person over their shoulder?" But he can be behind a corner, he can be anywhere and do that.
And the person in question, Daisy, was locked up in her containment cell thing, which would obscure her vision too. But the continuation of that scene where Fitz,
you won't see it coming.
You won't see it coming. I will take you to a weapon you cannot see that I will kill you with.
Yeah.
And he sets down the thing, and then he fucking shoots him with now, was that set up earlier and I just missed it, or was that
a few episodes ago? I think
a few episodes ago. Okay, I was thinking it might have been, and I just missed it or misremembered it. But that was fucking amazing.
Yeah,
that was fucking amazing.
It was a very Fitz thing to do because Fitz is all tech. He's not really necessarily a field agent. He's a lab person.
It was so cool because I've always said my obviously Coulson's number one, but my boy after that is Fitz. I love me some Fitz,
especially with is it this season that started out with him going around the world with a way to get Gemma back?
Yeah, Indiana Jones and the search for Simmons.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, that was all gold. I would have watched a whole miniseries.
You remember when he talked down that guy terrorist guy
with the suitcase thing?
Yes.
Yeah, that was fucking awesome, dude. I love Fitz.
That was some fucking Uncharted. That was some Nathan Drake.
I would have watched a miniseries based off of that storyline. I'm trying to think. Oh, there was something on the tip of my tongue that I didn't want to forget. I liked how the setup with the cross. How towards the end, they almost did the whole sleight of hand thing. When you're watching it throughout the episode and then they cut over to it, you get used to them. Oh, they're going to show me it when it happens. So I liked how when the final change happened, the final sleight of hand, you didn't see it.
Yeah.
And it was like
when we get to where we're talking about what they did with that, there was one thing that's paramount to a Jeep not starting in Jurassic World that I didn't like.
Let's hear it.
Well, are we going to go ahead and go into that then?
I'm trying to think. There's probably shit I'm wanting to talk about and just forgetting, but is there anything else you can think of before we start talking about the actual ending?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, we can talk about just these 2 episodes all night, really.
Yeah.
I did like this. Let's talk about this for a second. Was it the mid-season finale where Coulson collapses Ward's chest with that sickening crunch with his robot
That still
hand?
haunts my dreams, yes.
Yes. I liked how it was kind of weird the first half of the part B of the season where nothing really came of that on Coulson's side, but there were several episodes as it went on that all of a sudden it was like haunting him, and he crossed the one line he vowed that he wouldn't cross, because he's killed people, but this was personal. The rest of it was a job or
I hunted you.
The situation necessitated it, but this one was for him. This one was
he did it for Coulson. He didn't do it for S.H.I.E.L.D. Yeah,
yeah, and I liked that, and I liked how he felt that everything that was happening with Hive was all his fault because he provided that body and provided the mechanism for him to come back. Yeah, I really enjoyed that. I also liked how in that episode also he left the hand behind. Remember that? After he used it to cave in the chest, he just put it on Ward. But yeah. Which leads us to one thing that's haunting your dreams. You know what's haunting mine? Fucking half-hollowed Ward standing in a circle with a whole bunch of people, and he just drains the life out of all of them. When it comes back in, they're just all like wet skeletons.
The goopy skeletons they were talking about earlier. It's freaking unnerving. Like that character, man. The whole thing with Daisy, how it was a twist where you thought it was Lincoln and that was brilliant. That was
brilliantly done.
Because I was expecting it not to be Lincoln just because they figured it out with too much time left in the episode. Like how there might be one last twist, but it was still really, really well done.
I didn't figure out that it was Daisy. I figured it was either the metal guy, the metal melting guy, or Yo-Yo. But Yo-Yo was kind of obvious.
It was either going to be Lincoln or Daisy. That was always who I was thinking.
Yeah, I mean, I figured Lincoln until I knew how much time was left in the episode when they figured it out. But it was brilliantly set up to point all the fingers at Lincoln or Yo-Yo.
Which they had homages to John Carpenter's The Thing, which gives the Jeff stamp of approval. Yeah, it was
that was well done. And even when they revealed it was Skye, you're still kind of in denial about it being Skye.
Because that ending is so wicked where she is crushing S.H.I.E.L.D. as she's walking out. It's so awesome.
That was amazing.
The music with it, her performance, it was all gold.
The effects in that, it's all kind of in slow motion coming down around her.
I'm hoping...
and it's amazing how that played back in, too. Because when they locked down the base, those doors being wedged like that because of her still provided a way for him to steal the fucking plane for the finale.
And her fucking up their base provided the opportunity for them to mail in the mist because they were mailing them parts to fix some of the shit that Daisy broke. It was all so cleverly done. You could really tell.
It's like they worked from the finale backwards.
It was that's actually one of the things that I really, really like about that show. Is a huge criticism I've had of Flash Season 2, is a lot of Flash Season 2 feels like they were making the shit up as they went along. Yeah. And it's S.H.I.E.L.D. with these fucking callback after callback after callback, and it's all done really well. And it feels like it was a conscious effort to make it flow.
Well, how many episodes in this season? 23?
22, I
22? This is not something that you typically see in a 22-episode season. This is something you see in like a 13-episode season.
It's hard to get right even for 13. It's almost impossible to keep good pacing for a 22-episode season.
Yeah, and all the callbacks and all the shit, because generally you can't expect the viewer to remember that much shit.
Here's an interesting point, too. the Flash and originally Arrow and a little bit of Legends are able to work for longer runtimes because they have the easiest path to having a filler episode that's also good because they have such a vast pool of shit to pull from. With Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I never really feel like I'm watching a filler episode. Do you? It all feels kind of organic.
Yeah, it all fits. There's nothing out of left field or nothing that feels like you're taking a break from the main story.
Yeah, like it never. I mean, like. They'll have an episode like they did with the Australian dude who's awesome, by the way.
I hope he joins the team.
They'll have an episode where part of the thing is they're going to get him, but it all ties back in with Hive, so it never felt like a filler episode to me. It all felt connected like one ongoing plot line snowballing.
Yeah.
And the other thing that this show deserves a lot of people, since people were going to give it criticism for it before, I think it deserves a lot of credit for this now. They do not have their full toy box at their disposal like they do for the most part with with Arrow, Legends, and Flash. Can pretty much use anyone they want outside of Batman and Superman.
Pretty much.
For the most part, they're all kind of free range. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., they are hamstrung to the nth degree. And I think that's one thing that has helped it because they have to go.
They have to be creative.
They have to go substance over style because they cannot. They had to make Hive, who is a Z-list character, into
at best
supreme badass. Like we were saying, one of the best villains I've ever done in the universe. Like that took a lot of clever writing, and they had to kind of make it happen. And they deserve a lot of respect for it. But now, do you want to start talking about the ending?
Yeah, let's go ahead and start talking about the ending.
Talk about your thing you wanted to bring up with the
Okay, so it is revealed ever so subtly that it is Lincoln Six Echo that is the one that dies. And
I'm still upset about this.
I know. But I'm hoping that means that we'll see this actor in other things because I really like that actor.
I do too.
I look up his name. We need to get that out there. He deserves that. But here's the thing.
Luke Mitchell.
Yeah, let's just stick with Lincoln Six Echo. What bothered me is when she's talking about how it was supposed to be her or whatever, and she reaches up and there's the sleight of hand you talk about. She doesn't have the cross anymore, and he has it. She doesn't say anything. She just reaches and pauses, and almost like he can see her for some fucking reason, says, "Oh yeah, I took that," or whatever. And
I would actually have to watch it again because I didn't catch this what you're talking about,
because I'm like, it's a fucking CB radio transmission more or less. Like, I don't understand how he can see what she just did to respond to it.
I would have to watch it again because I didn't catch that, but yeah, I'll have to watch it again.
I was just like, come on guys, really? You've written everything else so brilliantly. But no, I actually really love their dialogue first. That's not where I was going with that, but their dialogue, especially the part, because he's had substance abuse problems. They've established
more brilliant setup
when he says, him and Daisy. When he says, "I know why you went to him." Whatever. She said, "I tried to kill him." He's like, "No, I know why you went to him." And he doesn't out and out say it because no one else in the room that's with him, like Coulson and stuff, knows that. But she knows instantly what he's talking about because she literally got down on one knee and begged him to take her back. Just like anyone else with substance abuse issues can relapse, and that's exactly what she did. But I actually really love that final scene when he's just chilling with Hive in space, because all of a sudden he's been this fucking menacing character this entire season.
And he realized he was beaten.
And not only did he know when he was beaten, but he had a character moment that you kind of empathize with him right at the end.
He was just like, what's his quote? I was just trying to make the world a better place or something like that.
I was just trying to make the world a better place, which, that's relative because that's in his eyes. But then he was talking about how he had the line about
he wanted to have a connection with
He
them.
wanted to feel like he had a connection to something. He's making all these other people feel connections to him, but he can't feel connected to anything else. That's why he goes out, and his entire drive is to feel connected to something. And then he also had that really cool line before all of that when he says, what did they call it? Sway. He's like, you can sway me if you want or whatever, but it's not going to matter. And he's like, I feel like we're going to share a connection here in a minute anyway.
That's
one
death.
One that's always eluded me, and that's death.
It was almost like, obviously he would have preferred that his plan worked, but that it didn't work. He was kind of accepting of it. He was almost like it didn't really upset him because he was so cynical in a way, but also uplifted. It was just such a brilliant little character, like you were saying. So like, they humanized Hive somehow.
Yeah,
it's like,
you've been more or less afraid of this guy the entire season, just as much as the characters. Lincoln's really the only one that knows him because of that scene, and you end up kind of empathizing for the poor bastard.
Well, one of the most fucking...
Because one thing you got to remember also, he started out a human. He had the inhuman DNA in him, and they meddled with it and turned him into that. The Kree did. At one time, he was a person.
The fucking line that was just kind of like heartbreakingly well written was when he was talking about the connection you're talking about, and he said, he's talking to Link and High-Vis, and he's like, you made this sacrifice knowing what would happen. You obviously already have a connection with them and all their flaws.
Yes.
And then I think it might be the last thing he said. The last thing he says is, they're only human.
Yeah.
Such a brilliant line.
Oh, I know. Also, speaking of brilliant lines, the moment the radio transmission cut off was very reminiscent of Doctor Who.
Dude, I was getting Rose flashbacks too the whole time, and I think it was done even better than that scene was in Doctor Who.
Yeah, because he managed to say the line, and then she has no chance to reply to it.
It was I'm about to cry.
Yeah,
I'm about to cry again because of this fucking show.
I had so many Rose Tyler flashbacks. And it's like Rose Tyler and then it cuts before so he never got to say it to her.
I'm burning up a star just to say goodbye.
Yeah, he gets to say it, and she doesn't get to say it back.
Dude,
I was with Daisy Johnson. I was crying just as hard as she was.
I was tearing up bad. I was very, very upset. They completely caught me off guard because I was saying earlier I thought this was for sure going to be an original member because they were making such a big deal of it. And my whole thing was it was May, and the reason I was saying...
But, they developed Lincoln so much...
They did, but...
That it kind of felt like you lost an original member.
Oh, yeah, I agree. I'm not cheapening it by saying that. Right. I just thought from a casting perspective, it was going to be an OG person.
Yeah.
And what kind of bummed me out was...
when OG S.H.I.E.L.D. person, it was Agent Carter in the thing.
What bummed me out was I feel like... it's what makes it a good person to choose to kill off because you want more. Yeah. But I just thought it would have been such a perfect moment to have May be in that role. Because think about it. If you switch May and Lincoln, all the dominoes still fall the same way.
Yeah.
Because, what you're doing is you're not taking away what you can do more with. I felt like... you had a complete arc for May if she had gone out at that moment. You still would have been heartbroken, and Daisy still has a connection to her because she was her mentor.
But at the same time, the whole persona that May has is tragedy and dealing with it and never really getting over it anyway, because there's the thing where with the child that she had to kill... and stuff like that. I mean, that's kind of part of her persona is tragedy. So at the same time, it kind of works that it wasn't her.
Oh, no, I'm not saying it doesn't. It completely works both ways.
I know,
yeah,
but
I just wanted more Lincoln, and I thought
you were trying to figure out how to get it.
I think I still believe all the same dominoes would fall the exact same way because I think it was so well done that it was kind of interchangeable. But I don't know.
And I'm not trying to cheapen May's character at all, but May is so cold, I'm not sure I would have had the emotional response that I had without it being Lincoln.
That's what I think would have made it work, because it's at that moment where they fully humanize her. And then think about it, she is so cold. If they have her kind of start breaking down and you're like, holy shit, Agent May is breaking down, you would be emotional with it because she has been so opposite to that. Because they set it up too. Where I kind of thought I was right because she starts having that dialogue with her about Hive. Hive didn't make you.
I made
your
you.
Your superpowers didn't make you.
I made you, yeah.
I made you. You were a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent before you were a superhero.
Which I loved that dialogue.
Yeah, it was really well done.
The moment that thing exploded on Lincoln's side, though. I felt like that was a grave wound. I felt like it was probably going to be him anyway from that moment on.
It's still, I was still not expecting him at all.
I had that feeling, and it still shocked me when he was in the thing. I loved also the fact that she looks down and sees the blood, and she figured it out before I did. Because I knew he had that fucking wound.
I know, the blood threw me off.
I was like, who the fuck didn't clean up the blood? You know? But
the editing was well done, because when she, like you were saying, how she realizes it before you do, and then all of a sudden it's like boom, she's knocked outside the thing by his electricity.
Yeah,
really cool.
Yeah, that was a cool thing that he did too.
It was just and I'm not trying to say it was bad. It's just I feel like from here on out we could have gotten more out of Lincoln than we could have gotten out of May, and still had all the dominoes fall the same way, and still have an emotional impact.
If he pops up into stuff relatively soon, it could be that he chose to leave too.
It could be. I'm with you.
Which, if that's true, what an amazing send off. Most characters don't get half as good a send off in anything, not just S.H.I.E.L.D. Anything.
It was so well done, and I'm still not...
So many emotions this season. We had the bar send off with Bobby and May, which I
teared up too with that.
And then I was with Daisy the entire way during the whole Armageddon radio communication between her and Lincoln, and then the Doctor Who cut off, and then he's just literally fucking floating there. The only thing that was missing with that conversation he was having with Hive was a beer.
I was just about to say checking Coronas.
That was the only thing that was missing.
It was so beautifully well done. And then when they tease it so far ahead of time, a lot of times, like with fucking Arrow, it ends up feeling unearned. And this was teased and still completely earned.
And you know, it's an odd thing, but I've thought a little bit about this. The one thing that I think that also makes it work so well is you see the explosion from Daisy's perspective, not from inside the thing. It's
quiet.
Yeah, it's quiet, and it's gone. You know, just poof, it's gone. And because you watch it on the monitor, you see a flash on a monitor, and that's all you see. And you know, if you think about that, you know, rather than having this super amazing explosion, he went out with a bang, you just see it from their perspective, just and he's gone.
And it's, you know, it's how fragile.
And it takes it from like it could have been epic to it's just more emotional, because just that's it.
It shows how fragile life is just in general. Yeah, it was beautifully, like, I literally have no complaint about the entire season.
And I love the irony that Hive was taken out with his own weapon, his own plan.
The idea behind the setup for it, of them having to escalate it out of the atmosphere, was cool.
Yeah.
The acting,
and the fact that was, you know, partially Daisy's fault when she's under his control.
With Chloe Bennett talking to Coulson and Fitz, trying to get them to help Lincoln, and they're just like, we literally can't, you know, like, even if we could control it, it's not built for space. And you're just like, man, this sucks.
Yeah, because
they all know what's going to happen.
And you notice the first thing that happens when it hits space is it starts tumbling end over end, something a plane does not do.
Yeah,
not a good one.
I was at a loss for words at how well it was done.
It was Joss Whedon level shit.
It was just there. You know, there are no words for it. Well, why don't we talk about now the epilogue type thing?
Okay.
I forget, the very first thing you see is Mac and Coulson doing some like recon work, right?
Yes,
if I'm not mistaken. Oh, love the fucking kind of Civil War-ish. 6 months later, boom, all over the screen.
Yeah,
like, boom. That was really like cool little callback, I think, to Civil War.
You're still in shock when it just 6 months later,
and then you're like, I'm not ready. I'm not ready. Go to commercial. I need a moment. And then you're just like, what the shit's going on?
Yeah.
And then it ends up being them tracking Sky.
Quake
officially
Daisy. Quake now.
She has almost as many names as fucking Khaleesi now.
I know, right?
So they're they're running a
she's the Unshaken.
they're running a sting operation, and then like when you really see what's going on is when they pan over to they have kind of like.
And I love how you get caught up in the last 6 months from the 2 newspaper clippings that next to the map with all the string.
They reveal Quake for the first time via the headlines in the newspaper.
Yes.
It says like Quake demolishes local bank or something like that.
Yeah, the one on the right was bank. The one on the left was it was Quake something, and then like comma is a person, like not something, but is a person.
Maybe like not man-made disaster type of thing.
Yeah.
And then you're like, whoa, what is happening? And then it's a sting operation.
And from that one shot of the map, you've already gotten the fact that she's gone rogue. Just from that one shot.
And then it ends up being a sting operation. They have tracked down the family of the Doctor Who episode. You remember the family of the
hobo that can touch people and show
see
them
the future. Yeah. And you see Daisy walk up, and how you mentioned she has a little bit more of like the comic look to her. She has like more striking kind of gothic features with her hair. She has they have darkened up her eyebrows.
The only thing that was really different from Quake in the comics is the long hair.
Yeah, people that are like hardcore comic geeks, if she had walked up with short hair, I think would have freaked
I know.
out.
I really expected when I saw on Twitter people to talk about how all of a sudden she's emo or something like that, but no one really commented on her.
You know, I think I'm going to call it.
Okay.
When she rejoins the team and drops this whole rogue persona, she'll cut her hair. Yeah. I think she'll come back to the team.
That's what I was thinking.
I think she'll come back as Quick from the comics, basically, when she kind of comes back around. They also have a little thing. So Coulson and Mac, as soon as they see it as her, they run down, chase after her. She ends up getting away because she like fucking hulks her way, airbender style.
Yeah, and I was going to say, the way that she's using her powers now and stuff, it's before she kind of used them even in the field as like a necessity. Now, like that one scene, to me, felt like it was just natural, like it was a part of her now. You know, like she's fully accepted it. And the amount of precision to not even break the fucking concrete when she launched herself into the air like that.
The way she's carrying herself, too, she knows the entire time she's 7 steps ahead of all of them. And there's no chance in hell they're going to catch her. And also, Coulson and Matt kind of know that, too, because Coulson walks up and he says, secure the perimeter up to 7 blocks or whatever, even though you're not going to catch her.
Yeah. She, from what I understand of Quake in the comics, she's like basically the ultimate badass of the Inhumans, which is the persona that she has in that final scene.
And did you also catch Coulson calling someone else the director?
Yes, I did.
So who do we think?
I hope it's not Talbot.
See, that's what I was like thinking, because this is also roughly 6 months past Civil War.
Yeah.
So they could also have tie-ins with that as far as what happens with their S.H.I.E.L.D. that is S.H.I.E.L.D. but it's under the radar. Mm-hmm. You know, is it now fully government control because the fucking like a third of the population almost got fucked over? You know, I don't know. It's like a lot of cool stuff they can do with it.
Yeah. I have a feeling it's probably Talbot just because
that's who I was thinking too. Which is kind of funny because he was just under Coulson a few months before.
And the question is that government mandated, which in that case Coulson usually says fuck you, I'm going to do what I want anyway, or is it just because of the whole he killed Ward for himself thing, he feels like he's not deserving of it and stepped down?
I think he stepped down because his whole thing is they have the cool line with him and Hive where he says, you know, I came up here by myself, but of course I didn't listen, they're all on board and shit like that.
Right.
And then he talks about how, you know, I'm going to make sure no one else ever pays for my mistake again. Well, Lincoln then did get killed. So I think
he had that awesome line of, no, he's not paying for your mistakes. He's paying for all our mistakes.
He, I think, stepped down. So if he did step down, that might not be a Talbot route then as the director. So let's say it's not Talbot.
It's not Mac.
Who was the director then?
Yeah.
May?
May
would be interesting because...
Especially, I mean, they probably wouldn't have known this, but especially with Agent Carter getting cut...
We get her more in the front and center. If they actually end up making her the director,
she's basically his second in command anyway. If Coulson went around, it was either May or Mac that took over, and you know it's not Mac because he was talking to Mac.
I actually, now that we've talked about it, since they didn't say the name, it's one of the main cast.
Yes,
because I think if it would have been Talbot,
Director Fitz.
If it would have been Talbot, I think they would have just directly said Director Talbot.
Yeah,
but I think it is May. I think that's probably where they're going to go. And if she ends up being the director, I'm actually more on board with Lincoln being the choice for the death, because I think that's kind of interesting. Her and Coulson flip-flopping, if that ends up being the case. So anything else you wanted to add with the Daisy and Coulson / Mac chase?
Not really. One thing I kind of regret us skipping over previously was, just to jump back, was it last week or the week before, we had Mac and mind-controlled Daisy meeting up. And when you were talking about how her ability to crush bones at will and stuff.
It's fucked up, dude.
Yeah, that scene was gut-wrenching. Just to watch, because they've had this dynamic as big brother, little sister all season long. Just for them to fucking do that. That's Game of Thrones mentality is what that is. That's Game of Thrones syndrome. And then we talked about, the scene where she was like, hitting him and stuff, trying to push him away when he's trying to hug her and stuff. Like big brother, little sister kind of thing. But that whole line of, like, I forgive you or whatever, and she's like, I don't deserve it, and he's like, yeah, but I forgive you. And so it was just, everything about that was so good. And then that was one thing I had on my list, my mental list, that is I didn't write anything down, to talk about, was most of the time in TV shows or movies or even video games, if there's a character that carries that much regret about something and that much guilt, and they feel like they don't deserve to be forgiven, they feel like they have to atone and stuff, that character usually drives me fucking insane, because the shit they do is so stupid. But that is not the way I felt about Daisy in this.
Because it
was very human.
She still had that shit in her system. She was not herself. Like Coulson tells her straight up,
you're going through
withdrawals. And then she's just like,
later they're like, are you okay? You're trembling. And then Fitz is like, well, she's going through withdrawals. So
it's so good.
Yeah. But that whole thing, like everything that she did, I mean, I was like, yeah, you would. Like they didn't do anything that drove me crazy or anything.
It gave me flashbacks a little bit to Hawkeye.
She wasn't whiny. She didn't have Anakin or Luke syndrome.
It gave me a little bit of flashbacks to Hawkeye and Avengers.
Yeah,
Jeremy Renner had it. They didn't have enough time to develop. I
was going to say in that movie they didn't have time to flesh it out like they did with Daisy.
But when they did address it, I thought it was really well done. Where he's talking to her and he's like, how many people did I kill? It's like,
and then to see her at the end robbing a fucking bank, to give it to the family of the guy that saved her because she owes a debt, and just making sure they're taken care of and stuff. I mean, it was just
they brought her all the way back around to how she was a Skye.
Yeah,
she's closer to being Skye now than she is
than she ever was to Agent Daisy.
Yeah. Let's talk about the very, very last thing you see, which is all set up with John Hannah's character.
Yes,
again.
And Ada.
I need to get his Radcliffe.
Ada Vision.
Holden Radcliffe, that is the character's name. First of all, I was not expecting them to turn him into a focal point.
I was not either.
And it was incredibly cool to see him actually be subtly set up where you didn't even know you were being set up.
Yeah.
For the next season. And I love that actor. He's fantastic. He's charming as hell. If you haven't ever seen The Mummy, he's gold in all of those movies.
Mummy and Mummy Returns.
So
everything
good.
He says is quotable.
He's hilarious. He
has a way of being funny without trying to be funny. You know what I mean?
It's like
it's second nature to him.
He is fucking likable in this show. All you ever see him do is awful, evil scientist shit. He creates the Silent Hill monsters, and you still kind of like him.
Yeah, it was very Island of Dr. Monroe-ish. But the line with May, "Are you with S.H.I.E.L.D.? Oh, thank God."
Also gold. So it's just I like the line that he has about together, Fitz and Simmons together are like a younger me. That was pretty funny. And then he goes and looks at his computer, and this is the main setup for next season. And he clicks, and you have to watch it when we go back. I think probably before I leave, we'll go back and watch the last few minutes of it again, because I wanted to see what you were talking about, and I can show you the LMD thing. So he has, on one of his file names, he's obviously established what he's saying to his AI. What is it? Ada?
Ada.
He talks about how he was on like a first name basis, him and his AI with Fitz. I think Ada calls him Leo even.
Yes.
So they're friends. He's friends with Fitz and Simmons, which is a cool callback to that. They met at the Deus Ex Club.
Yeah, basically.
And he clicks on his file name on his computer, and it's LMD. And then Geoff got the hint, and I was like, "Oh shit!"
I didn't even know this was a thing.
Because this has been a thing for a while, because Life Metal Decoy is basically any time in the comic books they wanted to kill off a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent but not really kill them and bring them back because it's comic book.
Right.
They were a Life Metal Decoy. That's always been a thing with S.H.I.E.L.D. To the point where you had talked about earlier, after I brought it up to you before we recorded, how there's an in-joke in the Avengers about it from Tony Stark that if you're not in the know, completely goes over your head as just being a Tony Starkism.
You have reached the Life Model Decoy of Tony Stark. Please leave a message.
So LMD... and then the very last thing you see is an Ex Machina looking android type thing, I guess, and
pretty much
that you don't really see because it's obscured, but it looks like they're going the Life Model Decoy route, which are, and he has the quote where I saw a lot of their friends die that didn't have to.
Yes.
So it looks like they're going.
And he said, "Today's the day we celebrate your birthday," which is why I'm now calling it A-Division.
Pretty much. But probably done better than Vision. So many pot shots at Age of Ultron today between the podcast and the...
Although Civil War redeemed Vision with the fucking sweater vests and stuff. That was amazing.
The door was open. But, yeah, it looks like they're setting up the Life Metal Decoy. If you're not familiar with that, I think they're revamping it a little bit as far as making them automatonic clones and AI. And they can do a lot of interesting stuff with that, too. I was surprised because I always thought that was an afterthought, because when they were bringing back Coulson, that was the first thing everyone said was, "Oh, he'll be a Life Metal Decoy." That's how they'll explain that. It ended up being better in the fact that he legitimately did die.
Yeah.
So I think now
Tahiti's a magical place.
Them going back and doing Life Metal Decoys as like a cloning plotline with Daisy on the run too. I can't fucking wait for next season. Setup is all gold, and being a comic geek, having that little Life Model Decoy thing was like, I was like, oh, that's cool.
And it also infers more John Hannah.
Yeah, dude, fucking awesome. I can't wait. So, do we think he's on good terms with them now, but he ends up being the main villain? Do you think that's the direction they'll go?
I don't know, because it's
very ambiguous right now.
It really is, and even then, even before Hive got a hold of him, he had a lot of mad scientists air about him, but he didn't really have malicious intent. He was a member of a clan, I guess, or whatever. It's not really a cult, but he was a member of a society, I guess.
The Deus Ex Society.
The Deus Ex Society that believes in human ascension and reaching the next level, and he had supposedly a lot of Deathlock stuff about him, like fake eyes and stuff like that, and his eyes were genetically manipulated and things. So, it's not like there's a whole lot of malicious intent there, even though some of those experiments had to come from unwilling patients, you know what I mean? So it's not like he's a hero, but it's not necessarily like he's a villain either.
And I applaud them for us not knowing right now.
Yes.
Because they easily, if they were wanting to make him the villain...
Oh, that was the perfect time to unveil him.
They could have unveiled him as the villain. And I actually liked it better that we don't know.
But the fact that, he wanted Fitz and Simmons to be there, but they were away on their vacation that they alluded to and stuff, it tells me that he probably has... I feel like they may go the Tony Stark Ultron route. Where
they go rogue.
Yeah, he had the best of intentions to start out with, and it either turned into something else or something happened.
You know what I want is,
because it sounds like he's on S.H.I.E.L.D. payroll now.
If there even is a quote unquote S.H.I.E.L.D. anymore. Do they actually have, when Coulson and Mac were going after Daisy, did they have S.H.I.E.L.D. badges on? I don't remember.
I couldn't tell you.
We'll have to watch it again. But I like the ambiguous setup for him. They could go the route where he's just Team S.H.I.E.L.D. He's a good guy. And Daisy is basically the villain.
He could be on as a consultant.
They could go the route where eventually they'll get Daisy back and John Hannah is the villain. And they could go the route like you were saying, how it's kind of like Ultron, how he accidentally creates the murder bots, you know?
Yeah.
All fascinating. And what I really want is that they go the full-on clone route with life model decoys.
Then you can really get your thing.
John Carpenter's a thing, man.
Yeah.
That is Jeff crack when you start doing shit like that, because if you do it cleverly and it's a twist, like Coulson is not Coulson the whole season, like there's like some Doctor Who-esque kind of stuff like that.
Yeah.
I can't wait. I cannot wait for the next season. I think it's like September. I think it's when it returns.
I believe so, yeah.
What was it? 4 months? That's depressing.
Yeah.
That's very depressing.
You like how my computer went to sleep right when you tried to look at it?
Yeah, it knew. It knew. Any other thoughts?
No, I cannot believe if you had told me 3 years ago or whatever what this show is going to become, I would have told you you're fucking crazy.
You know what's so ironic is this is season 3 of S.H.I.E.L.D. So when it premiered, season 1 of S.H.I.E.L.D. was concurrent with season 2 of Arrow.
Arrow used to be the first thing I watched, and S.H.I.E.L.D. was the last thing I watched. Now I don't even watch Arrow.
And now, I'm going to go on a record right now. If we were doing our top 5s for right now, this would be the number 1 superhero-ish show, even over Legends and Flash. And Daredevil season 2, actually. I ended up liking S.H.I.E.L.D. better overall because like Daredevil has fucking Daredevil, Punisher, and Elektra. I should like that shit.
Yeah.
For them to make Hive a better villain than 98% of their movie villains,
he was probably developed almost as good as Loki, if not just as well as Loki.
It is a work of art reaching that deep into the toy box and making it as brilliant as it was, where this is to me above.
They wrote their asses off.
Oh, yeah.
Dude. Like their lives depended on it.
This show, to me right now, if we were doing rankings, would be above Daredevil, Legends, and Flash. So this is crazy where we've become. And I just announced on the podcast earlier, actually I don't know if I announced it, I'm done with Arrow.
Yeah, you did.
3-year difference, top of the viewing list for you and me, pretty much, to, oh my god, I'm about to quit Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. to now one of the best shows that we love.
Yeah,
and we both now quit Arrow.
Arrow season 2 was the first thing you and I watched because all the Deathstroke, Slade Wilson stuff.
Good. And it was so awesome.
And we were on the verge of quitting S.H.I.E.L.D. and now we have quit Arrow. And we're watching S.H.I.E.L.D. first. What? I cannot believe.
I know. We live in a fucking Outer Limits dimension or some shit.
I know.
I just can't believe it.
This is Earth 2, Jeff.
Yeah, Earth 2, Ron and Geoff. Actually have a successful, good podcast.
Right.
So anything else you want to touch on before we sign off? I'm sure we won't think of anything until we quit recording.
Right.
So maybe at some point on a podcast, if we think of something else, we can chime back in like the end, bring it up.
But I mean, you could go on, especially about this season alone, all day.
Bravo to all the writing teams involved.
Can I just say what one of my favorite lines all season was?
No, we're signing off.
When Coulson told Powers Booth that no, he's not a god, he's just another human, and Mr. Coulson, he's a god. He's just not our god.
That was good.
That was one
of my other favorite lines too. Was in the finale. Coulson, hologram Coulson and High. He was like, "I'm willing to die today. Doesn't mean I want to."
Right.
That was also awesome.
Very Coulson.
Very Coulson.
That whole scene. I've always wanted to do this. Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi.
The world is about to end, and Coulson makes another fucking Star Wars reference, like the Tatooine one. That was also one of my favorite fucking lines ever.
They can do this shit now because it's all Disney. I love it.
Coulson is after my own heart, dude, making Star Wars references. We're spoiled, dude. We got fucking Spidey making Empire Strikes Back references. Fucking Coulson. No. It's just Jeff crack all the way around. Yeah, if you would like to check us out more, please like and subscribe. We do Game of Thrones commentary, or not commentaries, Game of Thrones recaps every Sunday night. It's our separate show, Tonight's Watch. Be sure to check that out. We upload it every Sunday night. Also do our Let's Plays. Next week, we can do a quick plug. We're going to be playing the new Turtle game. That's going to be exciting. We're both looking forward to that. If you would like to follow us on Facebook and Twitter, we also have links to that in the description. If you know anyone else that might also like our show, we would really appreciate the share. And I think with that, I am Jeff.
I'm Ron.
And man, kudos to ABC, Jed Whedon, Tancheron, all those people. Fucking Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 3. Was
Chloe Bennett, Brett Dalton.
All the actors. It
Lincoln Six Echo.
It was a gym all the way around, and Lincoln Six Echo you would missed.
Everybody really liked it.
No. Welcome back to the early expertise. You fucking laughing. Fuck me right up. That one's on you. You made me laugh. That one's on you.
The way you said it.